Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to read two texts from my lecture for intensive reading. So the first text is Life on Mars and the second one is How Humans Evolve Language. Life on Mars. A new study published in the journal Science shows definitive evidence of organic matter on the surface of Mars. The data was collected by NASA's nuclear-powered rover Curiosity. It confirms earlier findings that the red planet once contained carbon-based compounds. These compounds, also called organic molecules, are essential ingredients for life as scientists understand it. The organic molecules were found in Mars's Gale crater, a large area that may have been a watery lake over 3 billion years ago. The rover encountered traces of the molecule in rocks extracted from the area. The rocks also contain sulfur, which scientists speculate helped preserve the organics even when the rocks were exposed to the harsh radiation on the surface of the planet. Scientists are quick to state that the presence of these organic molecules is not sufficient evidence for ancient life on Mars, as the molecules could have been formed by non-living processes, but it's still one of the most astonishing discoveries, which could lead to future revelations, especially when one considers the other startling find that Curiosity uncovered around 5 years ago. The rover analyzes the air around it periodically, and in 2014, it found the air contained another of the most basic organic molecules and a key ingredient of natural gas, methane. One of the characteristics of methane is that it only survives a few hundred years. This means that something somewhere on Mars is replenishing the supply. According to NASA, Mars emits thousands of tons of methane at a time. The level of methane rises and falls at seasonal intervals in the year, almost as if the planet is breathing it. NASA suspects the methane comes from deep under the surface of the planet. The variations in temperature on the surface of Mars cause the molecule to flow upwards at higher or lower levels. For example, in the Martian winter, the gas could get trapped in underground icy crystals. These crystals, called clatrates, melt in the summer and release the gas. However, the source of the methane is still a complete mystery. The world of astrobiology considers both of these studies as historical milestones. According to this information, Mars is not a dead planet. On the contrary, it is quite active and may be changing and becoming more habitable. Of course, this means further research is necessary. Scientists say they need to send new equipment to Mars, equipment that can measure the air and soil with more precision. There are already missions underway. The European Space Agency's ExoMars ship lands in 2020 and will be able to drill into the ground on Mars to analyze what it finds. Additionally, NASA is sending another Mars rover in the same year to collect samples of Martian soil and return them to Earth. The possibility of life on Mars has fascinated humans for generations. It has been the subject of endless science fiction, novels, and films. Are we alone in the universe, Or have there been other life forms within our solar system? If the current missions to the red planet continue, it looks as if we may discover the answer very soon. The second text is how humans evolved language. Thanks to the field of linguistics, we know much about the development of the 5,000 plus languages in existence today. We can describe their grammar and pronunciation and see how their spoken and written forms have changed over time. For example, we understand the origins of the Indo-European group of languages, which includes Norwegian, Hindi, and English, and can trace them back to tribes in Eastern Europe in about 3000 before Christ. So, we have mapped out a great deal of the history of language, but there are still areas we know little about. Experts are beginning to look to the field of evolutionary biology to find out how the human species developed to be able to use language. So far, there are far more questions and half theories than answers. We know that human language is far more complex than that of even our nearest and most intelligent relatives like chimpanzees. We can express complex thoughts, convey subtle emotions, and communicate about abstract concepts such as past and future. And we do this following a set of structural rules known as grammar. Do only humans use an innate system of rules to govern the order of words? Perhaps not, as some research may suggest dolphins share this capability because they are able to recognize when these rules are broken. If we want to know where our capability for complex language came from, we need to look at how our brains are different from other animals. This relates to more than just brain size. It is important what other things our brains can do and when and why they evolve that way. And for this, there are very few physical clues. Artifacts left by our ancestors don't tell us what speech they were capable of making. One thing we can see in the remains of early humans, however, is the development of the mouth, throat, and tongue. By about 100,000 years ago, humans had evolved the ability to create complex sounds. Before that, evolutionary biologists can only guess whether or not early humans communicate using more basic sounds. Another question is, what is it about human brains that allowed language to evolve in a way that it did not in other primates? At some point, our brains became able to make our mouths produce vowel and consonant sounds, and we developed the capacity to invent words to name things around us. These were the basic ingredients for complex language. The next change would have been to put those words into sentences similar to the proto-language children use when they first learn to speak. No one knows if the next step adding grammar to signal past, present, and future, for example, or plurals and relative clauses, required a further development in the human brain, or was simply a response to our increasingly civilized way of living together. Between 100,000 and 50,000 years ago, though, we start to see the evidence of early human civilization. Through cave paintings, for example, no one knows the connection between this and language. Brains didn't suddenly get bigger, yet humans did become more complex and more intelligent. Was it using language that caused their brains to develop? Or did their more complex brain start producing language? More questions lie in looking at the influence of genetics on brain and language development. Are there genes that mutate and give us language ability? Researchers have found a gene mutation that occurred between 200,000 and 100,000 years ago, which seems to have a connection with speaking and how our brains control our mouths and face. Monkeys have a similar gene, but it did not undergo this mutation. It's too early to say how much influence genes have on language, but one day the answers might be found in our DNA. So that's it for today's intensive reading task. Thank you for watching, and I really hope I did well. Bye bye!